All right, let's jump into another deep dive. Today, we're looking at Newhall, California real estate.
Sounds interesting.
It is. It is. Our source is Connor McIvor. He's a local expert who just put out his insights just a couple days ago, December 19th, 2024,
Okay.
which is really cool because it's just a few days before Christmas. So we're getting a peek at what the market's doing when things usually slow down.
Yeah, kind of like a behind-the-scenes look while everybody's busy with the holidays.
Exactly, exactly. And there's some really interesting stuff in Connor's update. He's got some advice, some unique advice for buyers,
Ah,
especially about open houses and how the role of the buyer's agent seems to be changing a little bit.
right.
And he also shared some specific numbers on what's for sale, the median prices, and even a breakdown of properties in escrow. You would believe how much activity there is, even with Christmas just a few days away.
Really? That's surprising. It makes you wonder if maybe this holiday season is bucking the usual trend.
Yeah, right, maybe.
Could be a sign of things to come in the new year.
Yeah. Yeah, and we can't forget about Connor's predictions for 2025. Buyer's market or seller's market. We'll get into all of that and more. So first up, let's talk about Connor's advice for buyers, especially when it comes to open houses. He's really encouraging buyers' agents to be more proactive.
Okay, so he's saying instead of just passively standing around and waiting for buyers to ask questions, he wants agents to really step up and provide information, stuff that goes beyond the basic facts you'd find in the listing.
Yes. He even gives some specific examples, things like when was the AC last replaced or what work has been done to the roof. I mean, those are the things that you really want to know,
Absolutely.
right? Especially before you even think about making an offer.
Yeah, it seems like buyers are getting more sophisticated and they want to get a deeper understanding of the property. They're not just looking at the surface.
Right. And speaking of getting a deeper understanding, Connor also pointed out that sellers might be less willing to pay buyer's agent commissions these days. Now, we're all about being impartial here,
Of course, of course.
but I can't help but wonder how that might affect buyers down the line.
Yeah, it definitely raises some questions. Like, if sellers aren't covering those commissions,
Right.
that means the buyer will have to pay their agent out of pocket.
Exactly.
So it really puts a spotlight on the value a buyer's agent brings to the table.
That's a great point. Buyers will need to be extra sure that their agent is worth the cost
Right.
if they're the ones footing the bill.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll want an agent who can offer some real insights, negotiate effectively, and ultimately help them make the best decision. So are you ready for some numbers?
Hit me. I'm always curious to see what the data says.
Okay. Connor gave us a really clear snapshot of the current Newhall market. He said there are currently 110 homes for sale
Okay.
with an average price of $985,000.
That's interesting. I always wonder, with averages, is it being skewed by, a few really high-priced places?
Right, right. Averages can be deceiving sometimes.
Uh-huh.
He also broke it down further, said there are 32 condos listed for around $500,000 and 15 townhomes priced around $630,000.
Okay, so we're starting to get a clearer picture here of the different segments of the market.
Yeah, yeah. But get this, the number of properties in escrow is really high.
Hold on. Even during the holidays.
Even during the holidays. It
Yeah.
seems like buyers are out there making moves, even with Christmas just around the corner. He said the average price for homes in escrow is $910,000, 12 condos at $475,000, and 8 townhomes around $620,000. Makes you think, right?
Yeah, it does. It makes you wonder if this flurry of activity is a fluke or maybe a sign that buyers are sensing an opportunity and they're not willing to wait.
So what do you think it means for the overall market long term?
Well, if we look at those escrow prices, they're lining up pretty closely with what the asking prices are for active listings.
Right, so it doesn't look like we're seeing any wild swings in prices.
Exactly. It suggests a certain level of stability. Properties are selling, but not at a crazy overinflated pace.
Okay, so we've looked at the current inventory and the surprising amount of escrow activity. Now let's get to the really exciting part, Connor's predictions for the 2025 market. What does he see on the horizon?
Drumroll, please. He's predicting price increases in Santa Clarita about 3 to 5%, which he describes as manageable.
Okay,
He specifically said that he doesn't foresee any out-of-the-park scenarios.
so steady, predictable growth.
Exactly. He's not expecting any sudden boom or dramatic crash. Seems like he's advocating for a slow and steady wins the race kind of approach.
Okay, so no sudden spikes or crashes on the horizon. That's good news for anyone who values stability.
Hmm.
But he did mention something that's keeping a lot of potential sellers on the sidelines. Can you guess what it is?
Could it be those historically low interest rates we've been seeing?
Uh-huh.
I've heard a lot of people are hesitant to sell because they don't want to give up their low mortgage rates.
You nailed it. He said those low interest rates are a major factor in the current market dynamics.
Yeah, it makes sense. Even if you could sell your home for a higher price, if you have to take on a new mortgage with a much higher interest rate, it can make moving a lot more expensive.
Right. So we have this interesting situation where, inventory remains relatively low because people are hesitant to sell. But at the same time, you have buyers who are actively looking, even making offers during the holiday season. It's creating this unique tension in the market.
Absolutely. It raises the question of how those low interest rates might be indirectly impacting inventory
Right.
and ultimately competition for buyers.
And that's just the beginning. We're just scratching the surface here. There's so much more to unpack, including Connor's insights about out-of-state buyers
Oh, interesting.
and the impact of those who are choosing to hold onto their properties for rental income instead of selling.
Sounds like we're in for a deep dive into the complex and evolving market landscape of Newhall.
Yeah.
And to think we're getting all of this insight just a few days before Christmas.
Stay tuned, folks, because we're about to get into the really good stuff. Okay, so before we got sidetracked, we were talking about how those low interest rates are keeping some potential sellers from listing their properties.
Right. Yeah.
It seems like those rates they're really a key piece of the puzzle
Yeah.
when it comes to understanding what's happening in the market right now.
It really is fascinating how something, that happens on a national level can have such a huge impact on a local market like Newhall.
Right.
It really highlights how interconnected the real estate world is.
Connor even mentioned that if those interest rates were to drop significantly, like really drop, it could create a surge of activity as both buyers and sellers rush to take advantage of those new rates. But for now,
Yeah.
it seems like we're in a bit of a holding pattern.
A lot of people are waiting to see how things play out. I mean, I get it. Real estate's a big decision.
Absolutely.
And interest rates, they play a huge role in the affordability equation.
Speaking of the bigger picture, Connor was asked about the overall economy and how the future administration might influence those mortgage rates. And he said that when the economy is strong,
Right.
rates tend to remain pretty stable. So no magic bullet for lower rates coming from the government, it seems.
Yeah, that's an important insight. It suggests that buyers shouldn't base their purchasing decisions on any promises of rate cuts.
Right.
Instead, they should really focus on finding a property that meets their needs and budget.
Yeah.
Within those current market conditions.
Right. Be realistic.
Yeah.
Make informed decisions.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got low inventory, we've got steady buyer demand, and the lingering influence of those historically low interest rates. That sounds like a pretty complex situation.
It definitely is. And let's not forget about those out-of-state buyers that Connor mentioned.
Oh, right.
He said he's seeing a lot of people moving to Santa Clarita from other parts of the country.
I wonder how that influx of out-of-state buyers is impacting things.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's hard to say for sure, but it could be adding to the demand,
Yeah.
Especially if those buyers are coming from areas with higher home prices.
Right.
They might be used to a different price point,
Yeah.
which could lead to even more competition in the Newhall market.
It's like a ripple effect. Changes in one part of the country can create these waves in another.
Exactly, and it all adds up to a market that's constantly evolving and changing.
So to sum it all up, the Newhall market is active, but it doesn't seem overheated.
Yeah.
There's a lot of potential energy stored up,
Right.
depending on what happens with those interest rates. And let's not forget the impact of those out-of-state buyers and those who are choosing to hold on to their properties for rental income instead of selling.
You've really captured the key takeaways here. We're seeing a convergence of trends. Low inventory, steady buyer demand, and the lingering influence of those historically low interest rates. And it's all playing out in a desirable area like Santa Clarita. It makes you wonder what all of this means for you, our listener, who's, interested in the Newhall market.
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? What does all this information actually mean for someone who's thinking about buying or selling in Newhall?
I think the key takeaway is that knowledge is power, you know?
Yeah,
Understanding these trends and dynamics can help you make informed decisions, whether you're buying or selling.
absolutely. And if you're thinking about buying, don't rule out open houses. In fact, Connor's suggested that they might be becoming even more important in this market, especially with those changing dynamics around buyer's agents that we talked about
Yeah.
earlier. He made a great point about how open houses allow buyers to get a feel for properties without feeling pressured to commit to an agent right away.
Right. Yeah. It's a great way to do your own research, check out different neighborhoods, get a sense of what's available. And then, if you decide you want to work with an agent, you can do so with more confidence and a clearer idea of what you're looking for.
Exactly. And Connor emphasized how important it is to have an agent who's proactive and knowledgeable,
Right.
especially during those open houses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they should be prepared to answer your questions,
Yeah.
provide valuable insights beyond just, the basic listing details.
It goes back to what we were discussing earlier about the value a buyer's agent brings to the table.
Right.
In a market like this, a good agent can be an invaluable resource.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of competition,
Okay.
inventory seems relatively low in Newhall right now, and yet there's a lot of activity even during the holidays.
Right.
What does that tell us about the potential for competition as we head into 2025?
Yeah, that's the question on everyone's mind, isn't it? It's tough to predict the future, but it does seem like we could be heading into a more competitive market, especially if those interest rates stay low
Right.
and more buyers decide to jump in.
It could be a recipe for bidding wars,
Yeah.
especially in those popular neighborhoods.
It's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Connor also mentioned that he sees a lot of people choosing to rent out their properties rather than sell them,
Oh,
especially those who are maybe retiring and moving out of state.
it's an interesting trend, and it adds another layer of complexity to the market.
Yeah.
If more people are holding on to their properties for that rental income,
Hmm.
it could further limit the inventory that's available for sale.
Which could, in turn, drive up prices and competition even more.
Yeah, it's all connected, isn't it? Right.
One decision can have a ripple effect throughout the entire market.
It's fascinating to see how all these factors are interacting to create this, this unique and evolving market dynamic.
It really is.
So for our listeners who are interested in learning more to the Santa Clarita market, where can they go for more information?
Connor mentioned his website, SantaClaritaOpenHouses.com. It sounds like he has a lot of resources available there, including videos on a variety of topics.
Yes, and he also has a book available on Amazon,
Oh, wow.
which I've heard is a great resource for anyone who wants to really, deep dive into the Santa Clarita market.
And as we always say, the more informed you are, the better equipped you'll be to navigate the real estate world, whether you're buying, selling, or simply staying up to date on the market.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Newhall real estate market,
Yeah.
we want to leave you with one final thought to ponder. With inventory seemingly low and steady activity even during the holidays.
What does that suggest about the potential for competition in the Newhall market in early 2025? It's a question worth considering as we head into the new year.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time.
It's pretty amazing how even with the holidays coming up, the real estate world just keeps going. We've seen some really interesting stuff happening here in Newhall, and I feel like we're about to see some more shifts as we head into 2025.
Yeah, definitely. All this activity during the holidays, it's not just a little blip. It really shows that the market is stronger than people might think, even with, interest rates and the economy being uncertain.
Right. It's almost like buyers are saying, hey, we're not going to let something like Christmas stop us.
Yeah.
And with Connor predicting those price increases, those 3 to 5% increases in Santa Clarita, it seems like sellers who are patient, they might just get rewarded.
Yeah, that's a really important point. This isn't a market where you should expect, huge overnight gains. It's really more about taking that long-term perspective.
Right.
Both for buyers and sellers.
Exactly. It's all about, understanding the details, the trends, what's really driving the market.
Yeah.
And that's why we do these deep dives. We want to give you, our listeners, the knowledge you need to make good decisions, whether you're buying, selling, or just kind of keeping an eye on things.
Yeah, we've talked about a lot of things today, but I think the most important takeaway is this. We don't have a crystal ball.
Right.
We can't, predict the future for sure. But by understanding what's happening now, by looking at the data and listening to experts like Connor, we can at least make better choices, make more informed choices.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Newhall real estate market, we want to leave you with this. What strategies can buyers and sellers use to really navigate the market in 2025 with all this uncertainty around, interest rates and the economy? It's something to really think about as we head into the new year.
Definitely. It takes, careful thought, making good decisions, and maybe even a little intuition.
A little bit of gut feeling.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See you later.